Hi, True Avatars, and welcome to your weekly queer video game podcast. This is episode 50, and I am your host, Zoe Wild. I am a transgender and bisexual woman, and my pronouns are she, her. Joining me for this big 5-0 is Amy Lynn. Amy Lynn is a transgender lesbian whose pronouns are she, her. Hi, Amy Lynn. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. It's still technically summer for another couple weeks.
Oh yeah, by season-wise, but not weather. That's for damn sure. Also here, you can hear her laughing, is Cleo. Cleo is a trans woman whose pronouns are it and she, her. Hi, Cleo. How have you been?
Really good. How about you?
I'm okay. Busy, but good. I actually had time to play video games this week, which was nice. So,
yeah, forced myself to give myself time to play games, and it's been great.
Well, the game that you were playing that we're going to talk about, because I'm sure literally the entire gaming industry is like chomping at the bit for this. Literally any content that's not the game itself. So, because it's fresh out. But we'll get to that. I'm sure people know based on what I just said what game it is. But anyway, before we get into it, some headlines. So yes, we've got the news this week. Less news this week, but it's all big news. So EVO, the fighting game tournament, has a new owner. I am once again asking you to stop laying off people, video games industry. Roblox will require age verification for all players worldwide. And possibly the only good headline this week, the Life is Strange TV show is finally happening after literally a decade of development hell. There's finally big movement, so we're going to talk about that. And, like I said before, with the news that Hollow Knight Silksong's amazingly affordable price, because Silksong actually did release this week, finally, despite Cleo's denial, we're going to be talking about the impact that its low price will have on the indie scene. And in general, we'll be reflecting on the state of game prices in the industry as they currently stand. So that'll be like our segment towards the end of the episode. And of course, we'll also be talking about what we've been playing at the start. And at the end of the show, we'll have Queer Game of the Week. Before we jump into all of that, I have a few quick favors to ask of you, True Avatars. If you like this podcast, please leave a comment, rating, or review on your preferred podcast platform. Spotify has ratings and comments while Apple has reviews. Engagement like comments, ratings, and reviews helps to grow the podcast. And a growing podcast means a happy podcast host, that's me, who is forever happy and fulfilled that you enjoy listening to her show, which creates an infinite feedback loop of more podcast episodes and more growth and more happiness. So please go leave a comment, rating, or review. Also, please follow True Avatars, a queer video game podcast on social media. There are accounts on Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok very shortly at True Avatars. And you can also find the podcast on the official website, trueavatarspodcast.com. No spaces. That's trueavatarspodcast.com. And remember, this is a weekly queer video game podcast, so please check in every week. I aim to bring you news, interviews, and up-to-date discussions that are relevant to queer gamers, so you have a safe space to check in on the world of gaming from a 2SL LGBTQIA+ lens. All right, Cleo, we're going to start with you because you've got the big game this week. Like, you've got the really big game. You have been playing the game that didn't release.
Yeah, it's not real. I don't know what game you're talking about. I've been playing other games, but not the one.
You haven't been playing Silksong.
No, that's not a real game. That game's not real. The soundtrack is not amazing. The gameplay isn't awesome. Like, it's not real. It's like horses or birds.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
I have been playing Silksong, and I've only played for 90 minutes, and it has been amazing. I said I was going to bed last night. I think I was up for an extra 45 minutes playing Silksong.
Yeah, I saw that 2 a.m. reply that you said you weren't going to send.
Look, don't worry about it. It is an incredible game. I'm loving it. I'm loving the art. I'm loving the world, the music, the gameplay. It's an amazing experience so far. And I've barely started.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. I mean, you sent me a couple tracks from the game, so because I was like, "Oh, how's the music like?" And then I was immediately like, "Oh, I gotta play this now." Like, even if it's insanely even if it's like ridiculous, I shouldn't say the I word, but if it's ridiculously difficult, I will put up with it because the music is so good. You know? Yeah. So
I think that's where I'm at. I was like, oh, this is already kicking my ass in a lot of ways, and it has been ridiculously fun. I'm gonna stick with it for sure. It is gonna be a great time.
So I gotta ask though, because I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about the game yet, because everyone's still playing it. Like, it's literally like there were no reviews. Like, everyone started playing it at 10 a.m. and unless you've got delayed by the Steam and the eShop and the PlayStation Store and the Xbox Store, and like literally every video game store crashed the second it launched. But 90 minutes in, does it feel like relative to the original Hollow Knight in terms of gameplay length, does like 90 minutes feel the same amount of 90 minutes that it would have? Like, does it feel like you're deep into the game at this point? Because 90 minutes in some indie games is like deep in, whereas like for some games, like 90 minutes is nothing.
90 minutes in this case is nothing. I've barely scratched the surface. I have found one new ability which is like called the Silk Spear, I think it is.
That's cool.
I know there's going to be a lot more, and I've barely scratched the surface. I think I'm in the 3rd area, and I know there's so much more to see already.
That's awesome. And so, Emilyn, I think you mentioned you haven't had a chance to play it just yet because you've been super busy. Because I wanted to talk about Kirby with you, but I also wanted to ask just in general, like, what have you been playing? Like, you haven't been on since Deltarune. So once the emptiness of Deltarune, you got over the emptiness of Deltarune being done for now. What have you played this summer?
So I guess the big one was Donkey Kong Bonanza, which was, again, ever since that second trailer, way more exciting than I ever thought it would be. And it definitely lived up to the hype, in my opinion. I know there's a kind of gentle discourse about it versus Odyssey as far as a 3D platform goes, 3D platformer goes. I think they're very different games, but I adored it.
That's awesome. Did you finish already?
I've finished the main story. There is a fairly significant post-game for Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I did start that before I went on a little vacation. And it is the first post-game that I've been excited to go into, like, in a long time or ever. Usually, like, if I beat a game, even if it's like something that I love, like Pokemon or Zelda, I don't have like a huge incentive to check out the post game usually, because I end up feeling, it's just going to be harder challenges of what I've already played. But Donkey Kong was so fun and endearing, and the like little bit of I guess, setup for what the post-game, reward would be was enough that I at least started it. You do have to do a little bit or a fair amount of grinding, but we'll see how that goes if I get back into it soon.
My only criticism, I haven't finished the game yet. I'm not even close. Like, I literally only got to the part where you choose your branching path. Like, I think it's the only time in the game probably where they do this, but they give you a choice between like an ice level and like a grass, like a jungle level kind of. But I think my only criticism isn't really a criticism. It's just because it's technically called a 3D platformer. I think the 3D platforming stuff isn't as strong as Odyssey, but the gameplay loop of just destroying things and finding things to collect and punching things, like, just, it's so satisfying that, like, I don't care that it's not really technically a 3D platformer.
Yeah, it's a weird, like, it's weirdly satisfying, all the digging. And it's so weird because I wouldn't associate Donkey Kong with digging as a character. Like, Knuckles, I consider someone who digs. There's Drill Dozer. Like, there's Mr. Driller, or Mr. Drill? Yeah, Mr. Driller. There's like a lot of digging themed characters. Donkey Kong is a gorilla. This is not an animal that goes underground. So, this is narratively or character-wise a bit of a stretch, but it's still a satisfying experience. All the transformations are super fun. So that's been my primary, new game over the summer.
Before you jump into the next game, I actually want to mention, do you think that there's a lot of mining thematic stuff in this game because they were trying to justify the stuff Rare put in the original games with like all the minecart mechanics? Do you think that was Nintendo trying to justify it?
That would be a great reason, and I feel like a lot of this game is Nintendo kind of exploring the Rareware era of Donkey Kong. It's definitely a celebration of it. So I think them saying like, yeah, here's some mine-related stuff will help explain all the minecarts that are around. I'd say definitely. Or there's a connection. I don't know if I go so far as to say justify, but, it made sense to the designers.
And sorry, you were going to say what your other game was.
Yeah, the other game I wanted to mention, I only got basically an hour or two into it, but there was the, network test for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds that I got to experience, which was really fun. I was glad that we got to have the extreme gear this time because to me it's a little bit more of a pure Sonic experience not being in a car. So the hoverboard was definitely appealing as a choice there. Great music.
Oh, the music's so good.
I was on the Switch, so it was a little bit of a janky experience. It made me definitely want the game. It made me want to wait until the Switch 2 version exists, because I don't have any comparison. I could tell it was not an optimal experience as far as the game playability, the performance. Like, I'm not someone who even notices performance. Like, I had a good time with Shadow Generations, but I noticed it here, which is saying something. So it's nice because, if there is a significant delay for Crossworlds, it means I'll get some Kirby time in, but mostly Air Ride there. But if not, I guess I'll be playing 2 racing games pretty close together.
I mean, it's a good year for racing games.
Yeah, I am, like, with all the Silksong excitement, everything about this game seems like it's tailor-made for me. Like, these are sort of androgynous feminine bugs with great music and really fluid gameplay. The only problem is all of that stuck in a Metroidvania, which I've not had great experiences with in the past. I suffered through Cave Story, but and through most of Metroid Fusion, but that's about the extent of my current experience and tolerance. So maybe one day I'll break through it. Like, the difficulty, I got through the Prinny games. I think I'm okay with difficult to some degree at least, but the backtracking just is not the most appealing thing. Yeah,
Can I ask you a quick question? Did you play the original Cave Story or Cave Story Plus?
That's a good question. I don't remember. It might have been a little bit of both. Okay. Was Plus the one on the Wii?
Plus was the one that was, like, officially launched on, like, the Wii and, like, store platforms.
Like, I know I didn't buy the one that was, like, a weird 3D model upgrade. I know I skipped that one, but I did, like, I played it pixel art, but I don't remember if it was original or enhanced.
Okay. I was just curious, because I know the original Cave Story is definitely a game of its time, and Cave Story Plus does make it a little bit more bearable. I was just curious.
Well, I've been playing a game this week that I will be reviewing, and that episode is actually going to launch a few hours after this one does, because we got a pretty packed episodes. So I want to make sure this review for Quality Dreams Reasonably Priced, which is the game, and I'll say that a bit slower so people actually hear it. Quality Dreams Reasonably Priced. So I've been playing that this week, and it's amazing, and you should go check out my review, which will launch a few hours after this podcast does. So if you're listening to this podcast the day after it comes out, that review will already be there, and you can listen to it. It's less than 20 minutes. Short, sweet, and to the point. This week I've also been playing some of the Kirby DLC because I had been putting that off. Last weekend I had time to play either Metal Gear Solid or the Kirby DLC, and I picked up both because I had to have both. They're both really exciting games to me, and so I have not actually had any time to jump back into Metal Gear Solid Delta this week because I chose to play the Kirby DLC, which is actually really good. Although when I first played it at the Nintendo Switch 2 experience, I was really impressed with the graphics, and the graphics are great in the very first level of the DLC. And then you're like, wow, all the enemies, like, in the distance, like, they're running at the right frame rate. They're not doing that thing where some of the farther enemies are, like, dipping down in frame rate, like you see in a Pokemon trailer, for example. Well, okay, yes, works for, as you go into the game and more stuff starts happening on screen, the enemies, as they are farther away, especially in the water level, the first water level, the fish in the background, they're not running at a frame rate that matches the frame rate Kirby's running at. Doesn't take away too much. It's not nearly as bad as the base game, but I also did boot up the base game briefly, and I found the performance and the resolution weren't that much better, especially given how good Starcross World looks as the DLC. That said, though, the gameplay is still really fun. Like, performance aside, like, if you put up with the base game on the original Switch, like, you'll be fine with this, because this is still improved. It's just not as much as you would hope. But the gameplay is really fun. Like, all the new mouthful modes are really fun. They bring back all the original ones, and, like, just, like, the level design is really good. And the levels, there's only 12 of them, apparently, but, like, each one took me, like, 20 to 25. If you're looking for everything, like, and I didn't find everything in every level in my first try, never. But I always, it always took me like 20 to 25 minutes per level. So like there's like a good 3 hours of content there for the DLC, which I think again, like the amount of time that you're going to spend playing this, the price of the actual game. I found the base game too to be a bit short for what you're paying for. The DLC is the same. You're paying $20 US or 30 Canadian for this content. I think it's a little high, but I also think like $60 US or $80 Canadian, and now it's $85 Canadian because the prices have gone up. I think that's still a little high for like the 12 hours the base game took me to beat. That said though, if you're not worried about the amount of time, but just the quality of the time spent, I think the game is worth it. It's a really, like, the DLC is as good, if not better, than the base game. It's just not, like, the big upgrade you might be expecting from a new console. Like, this is not a sequel. This is not, like, a reimagining. It's just, like, more good shit on top of more good shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's a cherry on top of the Kirby cake.
I've heard that the end game, while not as hype as the original, like the base game's end game or Bonanza's end game, is still pretty good. Can you confirm that?
I've not gotten that far. I've played the first 4 or 5 levels. I've not gotten to the ending yet.
Oh, okay.
And if I did, I probably wouldn't talk about it too much on the podcast anyway, just because like it's such a short experience. Why spoil the ending?
Yeah.
But I haven't gotten that far. But I did hear the same thing that you heard, is that the ending is like pretty cool. And honestly, like Nintendo, with all their games that I've played to completion, which is a bunch of them, but since the Switch generation started, like pretty much all their games have had really good end games, like really good like denouements, like climaxes. Mm-hmm. All the Pokemon games had amazing story endings. Both Zelda games had amazing endings, especially Tears of the Kingdom. Like that ending is like, I was crying by the end of it. It's just so good. It's just like story wise and gameplay wise, everything just comes together in neat little. Anyway, that is to say is like, I think Nintendo has not botched an ending on the Switch, and it looks like the Switch 2 is continuing that trend based on everything I've heard about Star-Crossed World. And I guess Donkey Kong Bonanza as well. I've heard it has a great ending, but again, I haven't gotten even close to it because like I just moved, and I'm literally like, I'm still like I still am unpacking like a little bit and organizing and getting my shit together. So not as much time for gaming, but when I did have a few minutes to just kind of breathe and just pick up a controller just to play for a little bit, I was playing more Hot Wheels Unleashed 2. I find it very relaxing to play a high octane racing game blasting really fast rock music while I play. It's just how I unwind. It has been since I was a little kid. So it's fun to jump into that every once in a while. But that is what we've been playing. So we talked about Hollow Knight Silksong. We talked about Cave Story Plus. We talked about Donkey Kong Bonanza. We talked about the Kirby and the Forgotten Land Nintendo Switch 2 edition plus Star-Crossed World DLC. Jeez, that is a mouthful. Like the mouthful mode. We talked about Hot Wheels Unleashed 2. And am I forgetting anything that we talked about in there?
You mentioned QDRP, I think.
Quality Dreams Reasonably Priced, right. I was playing that as well. Thank you for the reminder. That review will be launching shortly after this podcast episode comes out, just as a bonus episode, like the other previous review episodes we've done. I think they work much better as individual things, and that way you can kind of see where they are in each episode. You don't have to dig through an episode. It doesn't get buried in an episode. So, separate reviews going forward. All right, let's jump into the news, shall we?
Woo!
Well, don't everyone get too excited. All right.
Sorry, let me just get hang on. Yeah, let's news! Yeah, woo!
Yeah, come on, it's exciting. There's actually good news this week. We're going to start with the fun headline, and then we're going to get to the kind of more horrible headlines. First off, we have the Life is Strange TV show. It's finally happening. So back in episode 14, when we were doing the predictions for this year, I was like, hey, maybe we'll get news on the Life is Strange show. Knowing full well, I was like, probably not, honestly. Like thinking in the back of my head, like, I think this show is dead in the water. Like, I don't think it's going to happen, especially like with the series kind of going on a downward trajectory in terms of sales and popularity. Why would you, like, the show's probably not going to happen. But no, it is happening. They have a showrunner now, so it's been in development hell for a decade, as I said earlier, but it found its creative team. So this comes from Variety. They broke the story. They're a big Hollywood trade. They're like, if Variety or THR reports it, the only reason to not believe them is if they publish conflicting reports, which happens with Marvel stuff all the time, but not something like this. This got confirmed by Square Enix shortly after. But anyway, this comes from the article. A Life is Strange TV series has been greenlit at Amazon Prime Video. Variety has learned exclusively. Based on the video game franchise of the same name, the show will be written by Charlie Covell, who also serves as an executive producer and showrunner. Dimitri M. Johnson, Mike Goldberg, Timothy I. Stevenson will executive produce under their Story Kitchen banner. I don't know who those people are. The series comes from Square Enix, Story Kitchen, and Lucky Chap, with Amazon MGM Studios producing. So that's the news from the article. That's pretty much like the most important bit there. There's not really a lot of news on like release date and like filming, stuff like that. However, Charlie Covell couple things to note here. I'm not sure if they're non-binary specifically, but they do use they, them pronouns. So at least someone with a little bit of affinity to queerness is indeed working on this show, which I think is very critical for a show like Life is Strange. So like, that's good news. Because I'll be honest, like normally when I read the name Charlie, I kind of made the assumption like, oh, they got a dude to do this. They didn't. Don't worry. My assumption was wrong. I shouldn't have made it in the first place. But as always, like, yes, we want queer people working on content. That's always important. But we also want, like, people making good content, right? And, like, we want people with a proven track record, especially with something like this where, like, you know, it's, like, a kind of important thing. And, like, to the fans who already are invested in it, like, you want someone who's going to care for it. And so this person, Charlie Covell, is known for doing a show called The End of the Fucking World on Netflix. And now fucking is always censored on the show. Both, I think, in the actual episodes and also, like, in the branding. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to be bleeped out as part of the branding. But anyway, it's called The End of the Fucking World. It's on Netflix. It's been around since about 2017. The first season came out 2019, the second season. And so I decided to go back to this show because it is about, I've never seen it before, but I've heard about it. But it's about two teenagers, a boy and a girl. And the girl's in love with this boy. And the boy is the budding psychopath / murderer. And he plans to murder the girl as his first kill, So, like, it's kind of this weird, quirky, like, John Hughes show if John Hughes wrote something really fucked up. And so on surface level, this show is not queer, but I was very interested to see how this show stacked up, especially knowing that this person is going to, I always do this when a big property is getting adaptation. I always go back to the director's previous works. When, Rob Letterman was doing Detective Pikachu, I went back and watched Goosebumps and I was like, oh, Goosebumps was really good actually. So hopefully Detective Pikachu would be good. It wasn't. But anyway, I'll let you guys jump in a sec here, but I just want to kind of like say that for a second here, because like I was watching this show and like it's queer in some respects. The two main characters are obviously not queer, but there's a lesbian storyline, like a B plot with the cops that are chasing these two kids that have run away from home. But the show's really good. Like I was just gonna watch a handful of episodes, and so I could just say like, yeah, the vibe is like it's good enough for Life is Strange, and like the vibes are like very like small town, quirky, like John Hughesy, kind of like you want from Life is Strange. So like I think the showrunner is the perfect match for like the vibe, but also the show's just really good. Like I didn't just watch 3 episodes. I watched the first 8 episodes, all 8 episodes of season 1, and then I got halfway through season 2. It's that good, and it's short episodes. Like it's a British show, right? But it definitely feels like if Life is Strange was like not supernatural or like power stuff in it, and if it was straight, this is the show you'd get from it. So I don't know if either of you have seen End of the Fucking World on Netflix, but if you haven't, I highly recommend because it's great.
I haven't. You going through the description, I remember watching a trailer for it years ago and going, I think I love this show. I should watch it. And then just never getting around to it. So now might be a good time.
Yeah, if you really want to check out what's going to be going on with this Life is Strange show, what the vibes might be. I mean, this gave me a lot of confidence. Like, I think the show is in the right hands.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we've had some duds. I know that I think Twisted Metal's been getting mixed reviews, but Borderlands, I think, wasn't well received. Halo wasn't well received. But we've had some really good standouts with, in my mind, Fallout. Again, I haven't played the Fallout games, love the show, as well as The Last of Us. Like, things have been going well, considering there has been like a fairly lengthy curse that most people didn't consider the animated Professor Layton movie to break for whatever reason, because that movie is fantastic and accurate. And as I may have said and tell Zoe all the time, I love Detective Pikachu. So I consider that an excellent video game adaptation. We got the Sonic movies, which all 3 of them are great. Mario movie, some great soundtrack, including especially the part that was cut, unfortunately. But, there have been a lot of great, video game related things out there. So I think that there's reason to be hopeful for this project. I feel that Life is Strange. I've only ever seen the video game's awesome Let's Play, and this was years and years ago, like I think 2013 or something like that. But I found it a really compelling story, and I think with the various choices, like the branching paths, it actually lends itself to adaptation really in an interesting way, because almost certainly, even if they adapted it 1-to-1, it's going to be different than a lot of people's experiences with the story, which I think is really powerful. The Persona 4 anime kind of did that, where the Yu, which is the main character's name, Yu, he made kind of the joke selections throughout most of the options in the game, where they would have given multiple options. The writers of the show said that he picked the joke answer. But aside from that,
I just want to jump in. Sorry to cut you off super quick.
Okay. The volume was loud.
No, you weren't rambling. No, you're good. You're good. I just want to point out that I also want to mention Arcane and Cyberpunk Edgerunners, because you keep mentioning the good adaptations are all queer properties or queer adjacent properties. So it's almost like the gay shit is good and the not gay shit is bad. All I'm saying. Anyway, sorry. Please continue, Amy Lynn. I just wanted to point that out because I was like, it kept going off. I was like, queer show, queer movie. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I was like, there's a trend here and it's the gay shit that's good.
I kind of forget. What was I saying?
I'm so sorry. I don't remember.
Oh, geez.
You were about to change subjects.
Oh, the branching path thing, right? So,
yeah.
It works for Persona. I think it's a great idea for, or it's a great potential for a show like this.
100%. For anyone who's worried, Cleo, do you have something to say?
I think the opposite. I think the rewind stuff lends itself better to a video game where you can be more involved and active and engage in the story versus a TV show where who knows what choices they're going to pick. They might pick something like, oh, I did this in episode 3, Chaos Theory, and you're doing, that's why would you do that? Oh, like there are choices that they'll make, like what ending are they even going to go with? And I think it lends itself better to the video game, like the medium as a video game, than a TV show, but I'm interested to see what they're going to do.
What if they make it I know Netflix just canned all their Choose Your Own Adventure stuff off the platform, but this is Amazon. What if they're doing their own Choose Your Own? What if this is their foray into a Choose Your Own Adventure?
Then I will eat all my words. If this is Amazon's like Choose Your Own Adventure, here we go. I will eat my words.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to make you lick the Silksong cartridge when it comes out.
You want me to die. I see how it is.
Well,
I do
in case
think
anyone
that...
is worried... Sorry, go ahead, Amy Lynn.
I do think that the rewind thing definitely lends itself better to a video game. But, I think it's still an interesting, like when the adaptation world is sort of a bunch of landmines, it's cool to like give people something where like, cause no one would want a 1-to-1 adaptation, right? Like or some people would and some people do. But if there was I was going to say Banjo-Kazooie for some reason, like Final Fantasy VII movie or TV show, and it was exactly the same plot, then people say, oh, why would I watch this? It's better in the other medium. At least giving other branching path options is, provides
That's
something.
True. Yeah. That's a good point. And in case anyone is wondering, like, okay, well, you don't even know what like, my first thought was like, okay, they're making a Life is Strange show, but like, are they doing their own, like, because like the Life is Strange double exposure, I won't spoil the ending, but it kind of does set up like that they could tell kind of any story in this world, with the way they kind of end the game. So, for anyone who's worried, the story does follow Max. So this is the official logline. The story follows Max, a photography student who discovers she can rewind time while saving the life of her childhood friend, Chloe. As she struggles to understand this new skill, the pair investigate the mysterious disappearance of a fellow student, uncovering a dark side of their town that will ultimately force them to make an impossible life or death choice that will impact them forever. So, like, it doesn't say whether they're going to do Choose Your Own Adventure or not, but obviously that is the premise, pretty much like from beginning to end of Life is Strange. Like, that is they're not changing the original game heavily. Like, they still could, but like they're still adapting that first game. They're not doing an original story in that universe, which they could have definitely chosen that path. They could have chosen a new girl with a new power in a new town with a new queer identity, right? Like, but they're not doing that. They're bringing Max and Chloe to the small screen. Speaking of which, Max and Chloe, who do we want to see cast? Do you guys have any ideas?
I wish I watched more TV to have an answer for you, but I don't have a lot of time to watch TV shows, so I don't know.
I'm going to give a broad answer and say probably someone from Euphoria. I haven't seen it, but if people want a second season of this show, I think use, the biggest name in young person queer media. Maybe throw in some people from Heartstoppers. I think in this case, ideally, I do like the Zelda approach of casting unknowns. I always am in that boat. But if there's a desire for a second season and they're not sure they're going to get the funding, I would say pick some people from popular sort of indie-ish but mainstream queer shows, and that would be a good call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm partial to unknowns as well, but I think if they get someone who's like a fairly decent following of popularity, like a queer actor or queer actors, I do think, however, that they should get someone famous for Mr. Jefferson. I won't spoil why I think Mr. Jefferson is like a pretty important character in the story, and I think given his impact in the story, getting a famous actor might add weight to the preconceived notions of the audience, oh, this guy is important. And it's someone who's got to kind of bring a lot of versatility to the role as well. So I think getting someone who's kind of famous is a good idea, and not necessarily movie famous. I'm not expecting I don't know, who's a really famous movie actor that isn't Tom Hanks that comes to mind. But I'm thinking TV famous, that might be someone from Euphoria, for example, or even bigger than that. But
my first thought process was, oh, David Harbour. Perfect. We got it right there. Don't know why David Harbour was the first person. I was like, yeah, that's it. You're perfect. We're done. No more.
Well, I guess if they do David Harbour, I don't know. I've never seen Stranger Things. He was in Hellboy though, right? And he's in Thunderbolts, right? That's the guy.
He's in Thunderbolts, yeah.
Okay. I like him in that, but I've never seen Stranger Things. I'm waiting for Stranger Things to end, so I know if the ending is good to watch it, but they keep dragging out the ending. It's like Attack on Titan season 13, part 7, the second half. It's that just keeps going, and the kids are 80 now, so the kids aren't even kids anymore. They're walking around with anyway. So the other thing we don't know about this, we don't know when they're filming, we don't know the release date. This is a big moment.
It's safe to assume they're going to film in Vancouver, though.
More or less, yeah. Unless there's a Trump has gone after the film industry, saying please don't film in Canada, kind of thing, and has said he might put tariffs on the film industry. He didn't follow through on that. I think he's in bed with a lot of the executives of these places. I know he's in bed with the Disney execs and the Marvel execs. I know those are all big Trump supporters. So I think if he were, and Amazon as well, Jeff Bezos is a huge Trump supporter, as far as I know. So if he were to put tariffs on it, Jeff Bezos would be hey buddy, I need to film in Vancouver. It's cheaper. It helps me. So I think, yeah, Vancouver is a good point. Cause it's a West Coast, town,
more than even most of these shows that film in Vancouver. I feel I've never been to Vancouver. I have the internal feeling that Life is Strange feels like a Vancouver town, or a BC town. It has that vibe to it.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely see it.
Chloe's hat seems like it was born in Vancouver.
If they do Vancouver, they're gonna have to a little outside Vancouver because it is small town. So I think they'll probably do. But I know what you're saying. You're talking about the southern British Columbia area, and to be honest, the only other place I could see them filming as a stand-in with a few shots on the East Coast or something is maybe Montreal. They would not. I don't think they would. I think Toronto could stand in as well. I don't think it should necessarily, but I do think it's going to be a Canadian production, barring some California tax break.
We got to think about what Canadian province would be most like Oregon.
Oh, I think Amy's already got us there with BC.
BC.
So. New Brunswick is pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does New Brunswick have much of a film industry, though? Tax break wise? I'm sure they have a film industry, so. But you got to look at where the tax breaks are, right?
Yeah.
It's always Vancouver.
Yeah.
Even Final Destination returned to Vancouver after going to, I think, New Orleans for one movie. They were no, this is too expensive. We're moving back to Vancouver. And it's still always the same bloody forest that you see in every movie. So,
bloody forest.
Anyway. So yeah, we don't know when it's coming out. I have to assume it's probably going to film next year. If it does get into production by next year, I think we'll see a 2027 release date at some point, even if that's late 2027. I think we're still a couple of years away. However, if it does well, which game do we want them to adapt next? Everybody talk at
Patapon?
once. Patapon. I meant like Life is Strange game.
Oh, I thought you just meant Sony games, because my second choice was going to be Flower, or the enhanced flower that I keep forgetting the name of, the cool one, the cloak people and the scarves.
Oh, Journey.
Journey.
Oh, Journey. Great. I'd love to see Journey. But no, I meant
Journey.
like which I want to see before the Storm adapted, because I think I know it's a prequel that people don't like because it explains too much about the original game, but I like that about it. It was also like, for me, like a queer awakening. I played it right before my egg cracked, and it was like part of the reason my egg did crack is I was watching these two girls run away together and fall in love, and I was like, why do I relate to this? I'm a dude. No, there's your sign. So anyway,
I think if they did another adaptation, I think before the Storm, or maybe they just move on to Life is Strange 2, or they go a completely different direction, like, here's a new Life is Strange story. Let's go roll with it and see what happens.
yeah, I'd be down for a new one, especially after, because like I'm fine with Life is Strange 2, Before the Storm, and True Colors are all great games. Please don't adapt Double Exposure. I don't even have the same problems most fans have with it, with all the Chloe stuff that they did with it, the way they treated Chloe in that game, which was they didn't, barely treated her anyway, but, it's not a good game. It's just not a good story. Like, it's neither of those things. I just think, like, they shouldn't have made it. They shouldn't have made it, and, I would, if they adapted, I guess that'd be one of those things where I'd hope they would change a lot of things to make it better, I guess. That'd be the one game that I'd want them to change. But we've talked about this a lot.
I've played it, but I haven't. Sorry.
Don't play. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say don't play it. That's a good ending point here. To talk about the worst game in the series, to jump into some weird news here. I guess this is kind of not bad news, but it's depending on, I guess, I don't know. I'm gonna leave this to kind of to Cleo to talk about. I almost called you Chloe again. I'm so sorry. This comes from VGC because Final Fantasy XIV might be getting a major shakeup, according to the director. Speaking to JP Games, and I'm quoting from the article here, Yoshida said that in recent times he's felt the game needs a notable shakeup in the way new content is presented to the player, because not all players are engaging with each new wave of content. I think that there needs to be a restructure about how we approach the content hierarchy in the game design, because content hierarchy is a part of the game's design. Yoshida said via translation. When asked to elaborate on this, Yoshida explained that from the developer's viewpoint, the game content is divided into hardcore, midcore, and casual categories. I've never heard the word midcore in my life, and in the 12 years the game has been active, the team has been aiming new content at these groups of players. However, he says the problem with this has become that with each new content drop, only certain elements are interesting to each group, whereas in the future, the plan is to make sure that all the new content released will be of use to all the players, regardless of their level of experience with the game. So, Cleo, to us noobs here in the chat, can you please explain what the hell this all means, and if it's good news or bad news?
I think, starting with the second part, I think it's good news. There is a lot of split in the player base, each of these groups, so I think I fall into midcore, so that involves, like, the harder content, like raiding and doing the harder boss fights, doing a lot of the harder content. Hardcore is the hardest of the most difficult content in the game. Ultimate fights, which require a lot of coordination, you learn a lot about the game very quickly doing ultimate fights that you wouldn't think about anywhere else. Even doing the midcore stuff, I've learned more about this game than I ever knew before. I think it is good because there is a lot of splits in the player base. Like, you won't see a casual player trying the harder raids. You won't see generally mid-core players moving to be more hardcore and really dig into it. I know some people, I know a few people who have, and they are truly built different. They are up until 2 a.m, 4 nights a week, grinding out these fights, and it is exhausting to hear about because they just go at it as hard as they can, and they do not stop until they clear. I know people who are only into casual stuff. They only do the crafting, and you don't see them anywhere else. The divide is very noticeable, and I would love to see them kind of bridge the gap between these different tiers of players. I think it would just be better for the community overall.
Do you think that trying to aim to please everyone with the same content, do you think that's going to just piss everyone off? Like, every content group is going to be like, well, this isn't for me because it's for everyone. Like, it's too, like, it, you know what I mean? Like, if the people that want to craft are getting something that's really designed, that's, you know, and people who want the hard, I think the mid-core players like you will probably be okay. Maybe that's why you're high. Again, I'm just assuming, but like, for Pokemon Go, for example, I would consider myself a casual player. So anytime there's a hardcore content drop, which is most of the time now because Pokemon Go has like, the player base has fallen off to now it's only hardcore players. But because I play casually, I'm only interested in the new Pokemon. Like if they're like, I can find them when I open up my phone right away. Like I'm not going to go wander the streets for Pokemon anymore. I have other things to do with my time. And that's not to knock anyone who does play Pokemon Go. I just like literally don't have time. Like I go outside to walk my dog, but I can't be staring at my phone. Well, anyway, all that is to say is like when they have these big, like they just had the Eternatus raids, and Eternatus is like the Gigantamax Pokemon. It's like, it's one of the biggest raid things they've ever had in the game. And I just didn't care. Like, so if they tried to make Eternatus raids for me, then wouldn't the people who are interested in the Eternatus raids be divided as well? So I'm curious like what your take is on that.
I think no matter what they do, players are going to just be mad, especially in this era of the internet. No matter what they do, people are going to be upset. I think it would be good to kind of help players who may be curious or like, I'm hesitant to get into this harder stuff. So like, here, let's try this. Maybe it's a slightly easier version of a raid, which they do already with different tiers, but even just like, we've been playing, this game has been out for 10 years, so we got to start collapsing these groups together a little bit. I think it's hard to know for sure what everyone's reaction is as this middle of the road kind of player. I want to try getting into ultimate raids. I want to try the harder stuff. I can't see myself doing crafting, but if they incentivize me to go there and be like, ooh, yeah, let's try this out, maybe I will kind of explore more. But I have friends who do crafting and I'm like, here, take my money, please give me the good stuff. So I don't have to. But I think no matter what they do. I don't
mean to judge you too, saying like you're a mid-core player, so maybe that's why. Like I just like wonder like which player base. Like I think your like the mid-core players would benefit the most because like you're going a little bit down and a little bit up, but you're not journeying as far. But the casual players suddenly being forced, like I don't know, casual players being forced into like a hardcore raid might be too much.
That would be jarring, I think, for a lot of casual players. But even just being like, let's maybe get you more used to these mechanics. You're going to see more in these more difficult things. And then maybe, oh, you're interested in these kinds of rewards. Well, here's a really fancy kind of one of those things that you can have if you try it. I think they've tried doing that a little bit. I'm trying to think. Of course, now it's not coming to me, but
I feel like that approach does, it's happened a little bit. I don't know how successfully with, Pokemon TCG Pocket, where, if people are there just to get, pictures of cool Pokemon on their phone, they can do that for free just a couple times a day, randomly. Good luck. Maybe you'll get a cool picture of a Pokemon on your phone. But if you participate in the battles, which is a completely different, skill set and an actual activity, then you get additional chances of getting pretty pictures of Pokemon on your phone. So, where if you really love Gibble, but you don't care about battling usually, maybe you'll give it a try because you'll get a 1 in 10 chance of getting a nice picture of Gibble on your phone.
Get that full art Gibble and live your life with the biggest smile on your face, because I'm right there with that player. I love Gibble's life. But I think that's a good thing overall, especially as the game matures and we're 10 years in now, more even further. I think it's good to get more people kind of dipping their toes into harder mechanics, harder content, just to kind of keep them on their toes and like give them the cool outfits they want. Oh, you want this cool commander coat? You got to craft for it, buddy. Get out there, go to the moon. Just don't worry about it. Which is currently the big thing is stellar exploration. You're in space, and there's a cool commander coat that I should try and get, and I'm kind of tempted to go do it.
Man, what even is Final Fantasy 14? Like, I thought it was just like fighting with swords, and now you're telling me there's
so
like
much.
There's like cat people, and you're going to the moon, and there's crafting, and like
Zoe, did you know
a lot of
Zoe,
stuff has happened?
Did you know that there's a documentary about the time Final Fantasy 14 exploded?
No, I did not know this.
So like that's, I think, so I haven't played Final Fantasy 14. Like I've run the character creator and the like, can your computer run this test a few times. But that's about the extent, because the answer was like, if you want to try, good luck. But the story behind 14 is like remarkable. The fact that it failed And the company like had this amazing huge press conference and apologized, and then just basically pressed like, they didn't just press the reset button, they worked the reset button into the canon of the game, which is so impressive to the point where like this is a relatively professional documentary that I think would be interesting to you as just someone who likes video games. Yeah, it's a phenomenal story from a meta context in the way that very few other video games, I think, have, succeeded. Like it's up there with like the E.T. burial and, stuff like that. And like even like Polybius. Like it is a weird it is a weird human meta story about video games as much as it is a video game of itself.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Yeah, I'll have to check this out. Super quick, I'm just going to actually just Google what the name of that documentary is. Or at least, you know what I'll do? I'll put it in the show notes. I'll find it and I'll put it down in the show notes. So if anyone wants to at least go look it up, I'm sure you'll have to probably stream it or rent it somewhere. It's probably not free on YouTube, is all I'm saying. But it'll be whatever at least the title is, you can find it on your own. I'll link it down in the show notes. We are going to move on now to a story that I don't think we all have all the information on to talk about, but I do think it's relevant to a lot of queer gamers. So I think it's just relevant to tell people the news and maybe say a little bit about it and then move on. But esports player, there's an esports player who has stood up to basically Saudi Arabia in a way, because Evo has been purchased by a Saudi Arabian government-backed firm. Which is it's a lot of words, but basically, the Saudi Arabian government a few months ago pledged to invest, through its public investment fund, $38 billion into like Western gaming in general, but a lot of it has been Western gaming and some Eastern gaming too. Like, I think they have a 7% stake or a 6% stake in Nintendo now. But they've also now bought one of the companies that owns Evo, because Sony recently also sold off Evo, their stake at Evo. So Sony's no longer involved, and now the Saudi Arabian government has kind of taken its place. So I'll just quote from the article here. It comes from VGC. RTS, the co-owner of Evo, has been acquired by Kidia. It announced on Tuesday. Kidia is and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this next word right, but Kidia is a planned Riyadh mega project supported by the Saudi Arabian government's public investment fund. The news comes weeks after Sony Interactive Entertainment sold its stake in Evo to esports group Nodwin, ending a 4-year period as co-owner. Nodwin co-owns the event alongside RTS. This comes from esportsadvocate.net. For those that are not familiar with Kidia, it is backed by the Saudi Arabian government's sovereign wealth fund, the public investment fund, which has invested tens of billions of dollars to build the mega city project as a tourist destination for the world that includes theme parks, racetracks, hotels, arenas for sports and esports, and areas for companies to set up offices to do business in the region. Where this story gets interesting to me is because I don't really know a lot about Saudi Arabia. I know obviously there's human rights abuses, there's they have a track record, there's stigmas, there's like all kinds of things. I don't know enough about it, like just research wise. There's just too much in the world to know about. I just know what people have told me. That said, I think it's important to know that this is happening, because whenever a government has invested heavily any government is investing heavily in media, it's best not to give them the inch so they can take a mile. We're seeing it right now with Project 2025 through Donald Trump, and all these things are now trying to censor video games here in the West. So because Saudi Arabia supposedly has a bad track record with queer rights in general, Sonic Fox, a streamer I don't know, but Cleo does, said this on Twitter, actually. I have a personal life goal that I've been dedicating to myself, and I'm quoting them here. I've been dedicating myself to when it comes to Evo, and I plan to see it through. I will not be erased, even if it means I'm the only voice there. I will simply be gayer and louder than I ever was as I wave my trans rights flag in grand finals. I employ other allies that if they attend these events, that you wave these flags around as much as you can. We, the LGBTQ plus community, are a core part of the FGC, and we aren't going anywhere, and this only motivates me to use my platform to amplify our voices even further. Now, again, it remains to be seen. This is my other point, actually, that I've kind of lost my train of thought earlier. My other point, too, is even though the Saudi Arabian government is investing in video games, like a lot of like Nintendo and Evo and all these things, we don't know yet that any of that investment has led to actual censorship in video games. That's the thing too, is like, just factually speaking, like we don't know if like if Nintendo was working, for example, on the Million Year Door, the sequel to Thousand Year Door. And Nintendo was like, we really want to make Vivian another side character for Mario. Like, we love her, fans are love her. And you know, Thousand Year Door sold so well, obviously, so we're making Thousand Year Door too. And Saudi Arabia said, hey, well, actually, we don't like that there's a trans character in this game, so we need you to remove her. We don't know that, like, that hypothetical situation would ever happen. It's possible that they literally just see that video games in the West are making a and in the East, I say this as well, like, just the non-Saudi Arabian government is, like, not investing in their own video games necessarily. They're investing in other countries' video games. So when I say the West, I'm kind of generalizing the rest of the world, and I shouldn't be, but all we know that we don't know that they're actually altering the content of the video games they're investing in. They might just be reaping the rewards of investing in things that are lucrative, for all we know, to invest in a megacity. And obviously, that has its own connotations and risks and things we should be concerned about. But we actually don't know if what we're talking about here is video games. We don't know that the video games are affected. And that's a lot of rambling to say is like, we know enough that we don't know. Cleo?
Sorry,
Sonic Fox, I feel, is not in a bad way, but a main character of the internet. And
okay,
it's fantastic. Like, it's great. I hope that the flag gets waved. I hope that is possible. I am worried though, right? Like, I love the suggestion that all the fans in the stands wave their flags and, you know, support Sonic Fox and support the queer, you know, players and fans. Time will tell as far as if these little stadiums get to be a safe zone, outside of Saudi Arabia proper, if there are any events there. But as far as just the ownership goes, I feel that things will be safe, at least for the short term, but we'll have to see.
I think if I'm trying to remember exactly what I said before we started recording, because we had that brief discussion about it. I respect the hell out of Sonic Fox. I have been, like, watching Evo. I haven't watched it in a bit, but I watched Evo a lot, and I've really, like, he's a great player. He's won so many games, but him being quoted as his words being gayer and louder, I worry that is going to detract from the abuses happening to the people in Saudi Arabia and the people who visit. And as much as this is if it moves there, like, I'm just worried for everybody's safety who goes, just in general. And I worry that him being himself, which is, no, that's not the right word. That's not what I want to say. Now I'm trying to come up with the right words and it's not coming to me. Thank you, brain. I think I'll stay with, if him being gayer and louder is what he wants to do, I would love to see it. I want to see him raise that flag in front of the world, especially now, now that it's owned by Saudi Arabia. Like, yeah, raise that flag, fucking put the dukes up. But we should also be cognizant of what that means as it takes away from the real abuses happening in that region and in the world. I think I got a little bit off track there.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, that's what you said before we started recording. I was just double checking to see if they actually were moving an Evo, like creating an Evo event in Saudi Arabia. I don't think that's been announced yet. And I don't know. I would imagine they will eventually. Like, I'm sure that's going to happen. And I think that's when I would be more worried. But it being in other parts of the world makes me less worried. Yeah. So, and that's the other thing too, is like, okay, if it moves there, that's one thing. If it, like, they're changing. Mm-hmm. Also, with the way things are going, with the way they treat the queer community in video games right now, like, just the way everything is going in general, like, a lot of less people are being supportive because they're just as freaked out by everything going on as we are. Like, how do we know that this isn't, like, that if something changes at Evo, it isn't Saudi Arabia, but it's Trump? Mm-hmm. Or just the general culture of things happening in the world right now? Like, it would be hard to know for sure. I'm sure people would immediately point the finger at Saudi Arabia, and maybe rightfully so, maybe. But, like, I just don't know if we... Like, it's too sinister behind the scenes, like, too mysterious, rather. Maybe sinister, but definitely mysterious to know. Mm-hmm. And you're right, like, if they did have Evo in Saudi Arabia, you would hope that at least they still have these other 3 events I'm seeing here in the article. They mentioned Las Vegas, Tokyo, and apparently, I've never been able to pronounce this city. Is it Nice? Nice? In France?
How?
But there's a European version that's going to be starting soon. So, and actually it's going to be in October. But anyway, so like there's, you know, if it goes to Saudi Arabia and there's a Saudi Arabian arm of the event, like let's hope at least the other 3 are still accessible to the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure even though Evo is probably very heavily cishet male dominated, there are still women and queer people that want to go to these events. And we were talking before too, that's probably a lot of trans women as well, because a lot of us find safe spaces in these communities. And when we bury ourselves in our hobbies, and then when we come out, we're, you know, usually in very male heavy hobbies because of it. Right. Anyway, that's pretty much all we have to say about that. I think we covered our bases there with that to tell people in our thoughts and did them in a diplomatic-ish way. So anyway, there's more bad news here. There's been more layoffs. We're just going to cover this super quick. This comes from Bloomberg. And I'm quoting the article here. Long-running game studio Crystal Dynamics, a division of Embracer Group AB, was forced to cut staff and fully abandon the game Perfect Dark last week after failing to find a new funding partner following the game's cancellation in July. Embracer had come close to striking a deal in which the video game publisher Take-Two Interactive would purchase the game from Microsoft Corp's Xbox, which owned the rights. Take-Two would then fund and publish the game. But the talks collapsed, at least in part, because the companies involved were unable to come to terms over long-term ownership of the Perfect Dark franchise, said the people who requested anonymity because they were not authorized to speak about the sensitive negotiations. As a result, last week, Crystal Dynamics said it was laying off an unspecified number of staff, although the company didn't explain why, although I would have to assume, and that's the end of the article there, I would have to assume it's because the funding has dried up for Perfect Dark, the game is canceled, the people working on it, probably a lot of the people working on it were new hires for that game when Xbox was funding it. Now that funding is dried up, you can't pay people, they have to go. Which is just the reality of it. Unfortunately, this is both a valiant attempt to keep people employed on the part of Crystal Dynamics, and also to keep devs employed. So, did I say to keep people alive? I meant like keep the game alive and keep people employed. I'm not sure if I said keep people alive. These people are not dying.
That too is important.
Yeah.
That
is, well, yes, I guess that's to some extent keeping people alive by keeping them funded. But I do hope the number laid off was very small. I hope they all get moved to more projects, and I hope the people that were laid off find a better home that is more lucrative and with more longevity. Any thoughts on the millionth layoff of this year?
It's unfortunate. Happening. Yeah, it's not going to stop. I was really excited for this game. Sorry.
You were really excited for Perfect Dark?
I was. Like, the little demo they had, I don't think it was real gameplay. I was like, this looks like fun. This looks like this could be great on like a proper kind of Deus Ex take on the game. I think would be fun, but then now it's dead. And I'm sad.
Well, maybe this news breaking will change things. You know, sometimes when things hit the internet and go viral, sometimes someone takes notice, right? But I find it very interesting that Embracer Group, like 5 years ago, Embracer Group probably would have funded this themselves. Mm-hmm. But Embracer has literally like closed so many companies that they've purchased specifically because they overpurchased and underdelivered. So anyway, but maybe someone else will pick this up, hopefully, and keep the game going. And keep these people employed, most importantly. But we're going to move on to our last headline here, which is super short, but I just wanted to get Amy Lynn's take on this whole thing. Because, Amy Lynn, you have not been on the podcast since the payment processor shit broke. Since that damn broke. So, anyway, Roblox is requiring age verification by the end of the year from all players that play the game, not just the players that live in the UK.
So that's to confirm that they're under 25, right?
For the age verification?
Yeah, making the joke that Roblox players are children. So.
Oh, well, I mean.
The verification.
Yes. But I'm not sure.
No one under 25 should be playing Roblox.
Oh, you mean over 25?
No, I mean under. That's the joke. Roblox is a kid's game.
Fair.
Thought this was going to be more clear. Okay, anyways.
I don't think I got the joke, but I'm sure listeners do. Because, like, if you're a kid, anyway. But anyway, this is all players across the board, all around the world. And this is just one of many examples. We're not going to cover this every week when there's a sudden game is doing age verification. It's going to be all of them. The same way that whenever you go to a website now from any country and you're in any country, you're going to see the pop-up saying like, hey, would you like to confirm or accept or deny or manage your cookies? That annoying little pop-up is ultimately a good thing, but it's also because it's one affecting one part of the world, and now it affects the whole part of the world. So I think you're going to see this everywhere. Steam is doing it in the US as well, but I think we're just going to see it across the board. But it's kind of adjacent to the payment processor stuff, where a lot of stuff is just like, if it's not safe for work, suddenly it's being gatekept or hidden away or censored. So because you haven't been here to talk about the PayPal, MasterCard, Visa situation, I was curious if you had any thoughts about it.
My thoughts are probably very foolish optimism that everything will work out. Like, it seems like too egregious and like baffling a situation that to continue indefinitely. If not, then like it sucks for marginalized creators and those who are making content that is sexually explicit, or not even explicit, but sexual content, right? So I guess not explicit. Maybe that too. But yeah, like the potential, I guess, floodgates that this could open is dangerous, right? And we've seen, bits of that already happening, of like the sweetest, most wholesome games being targeted from the Itch.io ban, and all of this kind of stuff. It's not good right now, is my main feedback. I'm hoping, or my main response, I hope that it gets better. I feel that I'm still hopeful that it will, but it's hard to say.
My feeling is that it's not happening as quickly as I thought it was going to.
And I think that's maybe why I have as much hope as I still do. Because when it was initially happening, like, I had I'm wondering, like, how soon is it going to be till things are both pulled off the shelves and off the digital shelves and things like that. And a lot of that is happening. Don't get me wrong. It's still dire and bad and affecting the livelihood of a lot of creators, both, queer and marginalized and otherwise. But, it hasn't been the storm that I think people rightfully thought it would be.
Yeah, I thought by this point we'd be talking about Xbox, Nintendo, and or Sony having games delisted because of the problem. So, all right, that is our news for the week. Short, sweet, and to the point for some of the topics, not all of them. But yeah, so when we get back, we're going to take a short break, and after this musical interlude, we are going to talk about the issue of the cost of video games, broadly speaking, from Silksong all the way to the Nintendo Switch 2 game prices. So we'll be right back. Hi, True Avatars, and welcome back from the break. So, the games industry has a pricing problem, and it is not just a high pricing problem, but it is now a small pricing problem because, yes, Nintendo opened the floodgates this year by pricing Switch 2 games at $80, which is $10 more than Sony and Xbox were selling them for. Now that Silksong has launched, everyone is baffled by the price because it is so low. Yes, it is more expensive than the base price of Hollow Knight. However, it is still only $20 and here they didn't even convert it like 1-to-1. Like Nintendo would have converted a $20 price to 30 Canadian. Here it's $25.99. It's $26. So basically the gist is that Team Cherry has priced this game so low for such a highly anticipated game full of so much content, quality content. And so a lot of indie devs are actually freaking out a little bit because, and like rightfully so, because now they're basically wondering, like, are gamers going to expect cheap indie games now, no matter how much? Because like Team Cherry hit it big with Hollow Knight. Like Hollow Knight was a huge success. Silksong became a meme, so it's popular because of that, right? And Team Cherry is only a small team of people that were like basically making games at their leisure, right? So they don't have obviously they have people to pay and money to make, but like they're set. Like they're gonna make, I think there was like something like 500,000 concurrent players on Steam, which was like 5 times more than Hollow Knight ever had at any given time. So like this game is set. Like they could have priced it at $5 and still became millionaires, right? If they weren't already. So basically here, from this Nintendo Life article that I'm pulling from here, and I'll link it down in the show notes, although I'm going to cover the gist of it here. Bastiart Games, the developer of Lone Fungus, they tweeted, as a dev making a smaller Metroidvania than Silksong, which I originally thought would be fairly priced at $20, what should I price it now? It'll be a 10 to 15 hour plus game, but it was made by one person with limited dev time and funds. I can't afford to give it away for free. Meanwhile, though, the other side of this is that, like, some of these these dev teams are like big teams. Like even though they're indie teams, they're still, employing a lot of people, right? So another dev, Tokana, highlighted that they employ far more people despite still being an indie team. So they wrote, yes, Silksong's price has influenced our decision. We're not trying to compete too directly with Silksong, both in terms of release date and pricing. Of course, these are two very different games with potentially very different player bases, but there's definitely some overlap. That makes things tricky, especially since Starbirds is a joint project between two studios, together employing more people than Team Cherry. So like, if they price a game too low, they might not be able to like pay their devs going forward, right? Obviously, hopefully they're paying their devs currently, but we don't know, right? Like, I don't know the full story there. And before I have both of you jump in, I just want to set the stage with one more quote here, because this actually comes from a queer developer. RJ Lake, the lead dev of D-Cell Games and the team making Unbeatable, they tweeted on Blue Sky, they can price however low they want. As a result, their return on investment is infinite, no matter what they do. But by charging such a low amount, they are causing lizard brain signals to fire off saying, quote, this kind of game is worth $20. You should expect this game for $20. End quote.
This is on par with Deltarune's pricing, if I remember correctly. And that is another, like, not one-person game, but very small team, mostly one-person game. It is really tricky. Like, I believe that, like, from an artist perspective, you should charge what you feel that you're worth and what you feel that your time is worth. For some people, as you mentioned, like Silksong has a bigger team than a lot of indie developers. They can afford to charge less if they want. And it sucks. They can charge whatever they want. And it sucks that will affect, some other people, but it's still like a much more reasonable price than most non-indie games, right? Like, I was in EB Games recently, and I know it's a plus DLC thing, but I saw the Kirby price, and it was $114 or $115, which was the most expensive non-special edition video game I think I've personally ever noticed on the shelves. I'm sure there have been more, but, I looked at every other Switch 2 game, none of them surpassed $114. And again, I know DLC. But, like, that's a huge difference. And, game development costs are rising. Pay artists a fair price. It's a tough spot that they've, I guess, accidentally put a lot of smaller developers in. I don't blame them. But it does make this whole situation rather sticky and complicated, when it doesn't need to be.
So I have a hot take on this, and that I don't think Team Cherry is at fault here. I think companies like Ubisoft and Nintendo are the problem. And that's not just to say like, oh, corporation's bad, so we should blame them anyway. But like, first off, like, the culture of the internet is a part of the problem, is that people forget that there are human beings making these games, especially with these big companies that don't put faces on, like Nintendo doesn't put people in front of you anymore, right? It's just like a faceless corporation presenting you commercials in a Nintendo Direct. So the internet culture and like the whole, like, the YouTubers that have spent, years making like in very reactionary content, a lot of people already have that lizard brain signal to just like shit on anything that they deem they don't like. Right? So like, it's a good thing that like Silksong is popular, but if Silksong had been a bad game, like, I guarantee you right now fans would be also, and I'm not taking all the onus off the fans too, like the player base, like there's still some blame there. But if we're talking about lizard brain signals, then, this culture of, first off, this reactionary culture, combined with the fact that Ubisoft will drop an $80 game, an 80 or a 90 Canadian, and we're talking Canadian dollar prices here. They'll drop a $90 game to like $40 within 6 months of release. In some cases, they used to drop a game like half price within a month of release. And so that first off, that's causing lizard brain things where people aren't valuing the content. When the content's expensive, that's bad enough. And now that the content is cheap and it's made by actual real people, not that these big games aren't, but like when it's people handcrafting something that's like, it's almost like a person at a con handing you a piece of art. The way I download video games off Steam, that's how it feels to download indie games off Steam. It's like, I know a human being made this. When I'm playing Quality Dreams reasonably priced, that's a 2-person dev team. And yes, there are other people that worked with them as well. But like, on the whole, it was just ND and Nuz making this game, right? So like when they handed me the code that I got for Quality Dreams Reasonably Priced, it felt like I was going to a convention and they were handing me a piece of art they made, right? So, and then there's Nintendo, right? On the opposite end of the spectrum, Nintendo is like, Ubisoft is like pricing things low. So gamers are now expecting things to be cheap, right? But then there's Nintendo, where gamers get even more defiant, where Nintendo doesn't drop prices at all, if ever, for most of their titles. Like, yeah, some of their Mario games constantly get the like $54.99 holiday sale or whatever. It doesn't really count because it's still like very expensive. But then you've got games that have just never gone on sale, right? Like just like tons of games that are really popular that like rarely ever go on sale. I don't think Tears of the Kingdom has gone on sale much, right? So then you got these players who are not buying these expensive games because they're so defiant. So it's really causing, I think the games industry as a whole has made its bed. And I don't think it's Team Cherry's fault for throwing a bone to the players, even if it is going to negatively affect a lot of other devs. Like Unbeatable is not going to be a $20 game. It just won't be. Maybe it's $30 or $40. Maybe it's still cheap, and I think that's still a good deal, but it's not going to be a $20. No one's, like, I know, again, I'm talking US dollars here again. Like, it's not going to be a $20 US game. It just won't be. But now, because Silksong was $20, are people not going to buy Unbeatable or wait for a sale? Right? Because I already have tons of indie games that I just don't have time to get to that are sitting in my wish list, and I'm waiting for, like, a huge price drop. For example, I've been waiting to play Tiny Thor, and I don't have time to play Tiny Thor. It's this like cute little side-scrolling platformer, like an action platformer, like and Thor is small. Like that's the idea, right? Has nothing to do with Marvel's Thor. That game has recently dropped to 75% off, and I still don't. It's not that I don't think it's worth 75% off. It's just like if I'm not going to play this right away, I can't even justify spending the $6 Canadian on it. That lizard brain signal, it's already there in me, and I'm aware of it. And it's still like I don't think it's Hollow Knight. I think Team Cherry doing this is a symptom of a greater problem, and I don't think they should be blamed for this at all. Is my hot take.
No, I don't think that's hot at all. I think that is, sort of just what's happened. Like they found themselves in this situation where they can be nice. Like I think in a lot of ways, like, Toby Fox has been nice. Like, it's great that people have the ability to do this. And yeah, it's a wider industry thing.
I also think we should keep in mind what style of games we're talking about with Hollow Knight Silksong being a Metroidvania. I think naturally there's going to be a lot more content to explore and to find and to dig into versus Unbeatable being a rhythm game. I think that's something we should be aware of when determining and thinking about, maybe this is going to be a $20 game, but I kickstarted Unbeatable, so I don't know. I've already paid my toll. But I think that is an important part of the discussion is, should a rhythm game be priced higher so the artists get paid, or should it be $20 because it's an indie game? That's the price. I think that's something to consider as well. And it's always hard to know what a game is worth. It's a meme, and the only image I could find was of Walter. Oh my goodness, what is her name? Not Walter. What am I doing? Lilith. I think it's actually Lilith Walter is the name. Twitter trans woman game developer made Bloodborne Racing, the Bloodborne Racing game that had to be renamed.
Bloodborne Kart. Yes, I'm familiar.
Bloodborne Kart. Yes, there is a meme image with her PlayStation 1 styled rabbit. I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding. So I think in general, I think indie games should be priced more to get those people their paychecks because they deserve it. They're working hard. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then there's the other end of the spectrum. Like imagine being Team Cherry and being like, we're going to throw the fans a bone and just do this nice thing and getting called out. But then, because especially too, like before this pricing thing happened, like everything is going up in price everywhere in our lives, right? Not just video games, but if we're talking specifically video games, like Nintendo starting with the Switch 2, they raised all their prices across the board. And now, like, it's gone even now to, like, the Switch 1 accessories and consoles and games, right? Like, games were $80 here up until August 1st, and now suddenly they're $85, right? Because now they're actually adjusting for inflation properly, too. Like, and so Xbox and PlayStation also raised their prices. PlayStation also recently, it leaked through Bill Billycoon. I don't know how to pronounce the name, as it's always spelled kind of differently when I see the leaks, but they leak like upcoming pre-orders and stuff. And supposedly the digital version of the PS5 in Europe is getting not a price cut, but to avoid a price increase, they are reducing the storage size from 1 terabyte to 825 gigabytes, a storage size I didn't even know they made, right? Xbox was going to raise their game prices from $70 to $80 US. So they were going to probably go here. I don't think they ever confirmed what the Canadian equivalent would be, but it was probably going to be $90 to $100, right? They were going to start with Outer Worlds 2, but then they backtracked, at least for this fall. They realized Outer Worlds 2 probably wasn't getting pre-orders, so they backtracked. But it's still supposed to happen next year. Analysts are also predicting, and we talked about this in a previous episode, the analysts are predicting GTA 6 could launch at $100 US next May for the most basic edition, not even the collector's edition. We're talking the most basic, like the disc in the case and that's it. It could launch for $100, and with currency conversion here in Canada, that could be $140, maybe with inflation by the time it hits $150, right? So like, and gamers are cutting back on spending too. Like Gen Z is also cutting back. This comes from Vice, and they wrote in a June 24th report from the Wall Street Journal, Circana found both online and retail purchases among 18 to 24 age group drops by 13% from January to April compared to the year prior. In particular, Circana found that young Zoomers were spending nearly 25% less per week on video games than in 2024, while purchases for accessories, small appliances, technology, and total general merchandise has dropped with all young adults. Video gaming took the lead in Circana's data. The drop-off was enormous for 18 to 24-year-olds. And other age groups were like, it was a single-digit decline, but 5%. So you're Team Cherry, and you are seeing how bad it is, and you're seeing the cost of living, and you're seeing everything, and then suddenly, like, here's a treat. Silksong is cheap. It's $5 more than our previous game, so it's still an increase, but it's also like... So, like, I understand RJ, like, point about, like, this is going to cause problems for other indie games, because ultimately RJ is right. It's going to cause... Like, this is going to get worse. But I still don't want to blame Team Cherry for this, because they're doing the right thing, whereas everyone else is doing the practical thing. And the big companies like Nintendo, I don't think Nintendo... I really don't think Nintendo needs to price their games higher. Like, I think they could probably get away. They sell so much volume that I don't think they need to price things. But Nintendo is the Disney of video games. They're greedy, right? If Nintendo thought they could put their games in an actual physical vault the way Disney did 20 years ago with their movies, they would do it, right? And they already do drip feed their old games, and they dictate how we want to buy things. So, and that's not just Nintendo either. Sony is doing the same thing with their back catalog. Anyway, I've been rambling a lot. I'm so sorry that I've been kind of like monopolizing this conversation, so I'll open up the floor again. I'm so sorry.
It is fine. I think I just have to say I'm getting priced out. I'm probably not going to get a Switch 2 at this point. It is too expensive. They're not going to drop their prices. Even as much as I'm interested in just giving GTA 6 a shot, I'm probably not gonna. I'm probably just going to wait until like it goes on sale for $5 in a decade. But
actually,
yeah, I've mentioned before that like I just play games less than I used to. I don't feel like as much as I would love to travel back in time and play Persona 5, but with the time that I had in 2005, that isn't going to happen, or 2007, whatever. But 2005, I was still in high school. But with how things are now, like I'm content with smaller indie games and getting like the new entries of franchises that I love. And, you know, I would love for a new bigger game to come out and surprise me. Like I would love a new IP like Splatoon to come out again, or, you know, something like a shorter RPG. Like if they made Eternal Sonata 2, then that doesn't make sense given the plot of that game. But, you know, I would love, you know, a high budget short RPG that is less than 200 hours, right? Like exaggerating there, but, you know, 30-hour RPG. That would be delightful, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and accessible, because I put, you know, 70, 80 hours into Zelda, so I could do a 30-hour RPG. But yeah, like I'm content with being, I guess, less of a gamer.
Well, Gen Z agrees with you. And that's not even to mention, too, that, like, gamers are playing the same games now. Like, people are, like, Minecraft, Roblox, games like that, right? Like where it's like Final Fantasy 14, like some players are just sticking with their one game, right? So like obviously that becomes an issue when you want to launch a new live service game, but in general, like some games are just like a lot of time is being taken up by like the one game that people are going back to. People aren't buying new games. So that doesn't help either.
I do just want to cut in. I'm glad someone else knows what Eternal Sonata is, because that's one of my favorite games from that generation.
It is the Tales of series perfected, but also not Tales of game. Like as far as the battle system goes, like it's action RPG, but like there's nuance to it. It was a fantastic game.
It is so good. Sorry for that sidebar. I just wanted to say that because it's one of my favorite games.
No, you're so good. That's why we have the podcast. I'm trying not to dominate the conversation. I just have very thorough notes, and I was like, I got to say all this. But yeah, does anyone have like any thoughts? Like, I don't know, like what is even the solution here? Besides corporations actually standing down and backing the fuck off.
Prices will be different. I think getting used to that. And I feel that in the gaming space, I don't know if it's still the case, but there used to be sort of an acceptance of that a lesser like quality game with worse graphics is sometimes going to be more expensive than a great quality game. Like, I'm pretty sure when I bought it, Gex 64 was more money than Ocarina of Time. There is no universe where Gex 64 is a better game than Ocarina of Time. But I still, you know, not me, but my mom bought Gex 64 for the $89.99 when Zelda was probably $50 or $69.99. Like, I feel like it's just gonna happen. Like, if Shovel Knight 2 is $129, then maybe it's time to raise some, you know, alarm bells and question things. But yeah, I feel as long as indie games are competitively priced, learning that sometimes you're going to pay $1 for a game, sometimes you're going to pay, you know, $50 for a game. Like I wish that people would kind of get used to that. I know it's maybe not going to happen, but it's kind of how art works, right? You go to a convention and look at people's prints. Some people are selling prints or enamel pins for $10. Some are selling the same materials for $50. And it's up to the artist. And video games are art. And especially in the indie space, they're even more art. Artists charge what you want, and you can take that risk. It sucks that an industry will make people more or less likely to spend it, but yeah, that's the only solution or sort of method I can think of aside from subsidizing or, you know, co-ops or things like that, which are complicated.
Well, I'll just say I agree with everything you're saying. I don't have too much more to add. I've kind of said my piece. Mm-hmm. I will note there was one person on Twitter that was kind of getting lambasted because they were saying that like they posted their commission prices on, I think, TikTok, and they tweeted about it, and they got and I think and Instagram as well, and like I think the meme was like, I charge $100 for just a sketch, and someone was like ringing that artist's like OC out, right? Their original character or their avatar. And I just think like in general, people are not okay with paying high prices for things that are like handmade, and handmade in the sense that like it wasn't like, I'm not saying Nintendo games, for example, aren't handmade by the artists that make them, but like there's a corporate sheen. There is a assembly line element to AAA gaming that just isn't really there with indie games. And so people need to treat indie games the way you would treat handmade art, but people don't. That is to say that, and I said I had said my piece, but this is the last thing, is that like people a lot of people don't respect like handmade art that way, like commissions and stuff like that. So if people don't do that, that's not going to translate to video games either, because people are just like, so there's been times I've called someone out on the internet because I think they're saying something I don't agree with. And then suddenly the artist, like that person, not necessarily an artist, but like literally whoever it is, who I think has this big following, is suddenly in my inbox talking about it with me. I called out a pretty big games journalist once in a comment, and she was in my inbox 5 minutes later, and we were having a heart-to-heart discussion about what was actually said and what was intended. And so, like, it's easy to forget sometimes there's a human being behind everything that exists, or you hope anyway, right? You hope that there's a human being and not it's fucking generative AI, but there's a human being behind it, and sometimes we got to remember the human. And I think that is really what it boils down to at the end of the day, is like people are forgetting the human in all of this. Because the human is why Silksong is so cheap, right? There's no corporation that said like Silksong is a big, like it's got a AAA following, like it's the GTA 6 of indie games in terms of like popularity, right? Like people meme it the way people meme, the people were saying like, where's Silksong with clown memes and stuff, the same way people are saying like, oh, we got this before GTA 6, or we got fascism before GTA 6, right? So anyway, I'm rambling and I've lost my point. So we're going to move on to Queer Game of the Week. Cleo, you brought this week's Queer Game of the Week. Thank you so much. What game did you bring?
I brought Chicory, a colorful tale.
That's how you pronounce it? Okay, good. I finally know. Because I was saying like Chicory?
It is Chicory. Chicory, every character in that game, as we get into it, it is a flower.
Amy, here's your sequel to your flower game. There you go.
So Chicory, a colorful tale. It is a top-down adventure game where you play as you can name the character whatever your favorite food is. They ask you that at the beginning. Canonically, their name is Pizza.
Great name.
It's great. Mine was Popcorn for a bit. But outside of your own name, it is Pizza. You are a janitor in a tower for the titular Chicory, a wielder of a magical paintbrush. Stuff happens and color is taken out of the world. Pizza ends up with this magical brush that can paint color onto the world, and you are on an adventure to bring color back to the world and to help Chicory. I consider the game to be queer because the main character is presumably non-binary. They're a dog.
I think it has the LGBTQ plus tag on Steam, actually.
Yeah, and there are relationships in the game. I'm from remembering right. It has been a hot minute since I have played through the full game. The music is created by famous trans musician Lena Raine, composer of a little known game called Celeste. Also has a few songs in Minecraft. Beastie Ball, I think, is her most recent work, if I'm remembering correctly. But there is a lot going on that I would say would make this game queer, not just the relationships and the characters you play. It is also a game about self-discovery and like finding your place in the world and kind of figuring out your relationships along the way with the people you admire. I like the game because it is just fun running around the world, painting everything with whatever color you have access to. There are different brush types and different abilities you get. You get like a paint can. You just fill a whole screen with blue. Why not? It is a lot of fun. And the music is great. It's wonderful. I listen to that soundtrack all the time when I'm writing or working on something. It is not a cozy game as some people think. It does start off not very difficult, but as you get further in, there are boss battles where you use the paint to cut across the enemies you're facing. It is I think it does get a bit heavier towards the back half as well, but it is a very fun game overall. It also can be played entirely in co-op.
Oh, that's awesome. I actually didn't know about the co-op thing. That's really cool.
Yeah. I played it a little bit with a friend of mine through Steam Remote Play, and we had a blast.
Is it like afterthought co-op like Nintendo does with some of their games where they're like, here's a child on your back, or here's like a Waddle Dee with a spear? Or
if I'm remembering, they're not controlling another character. You're still playing as Pizza, kind of moving around the world, but they get their own paintbrush and they can paint and draw and color in characters as you go.
Okay. So a little column A, a little column B. That's okay. That's better than like Yeah, because it's like disappointing when you're playing Kirby in the Forgotten Land as in co-op, and like the second player gets to be Banana Waddle Dee, and all you get to really do is like throw a spear. You don't get to like suck up enemies or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. But so, yeah, they don't get their own character, but I think the way the game works, it's best that there's only one person controlling everything and them getting to paint and just like, yeah, I'm doodling and just like messing around with the paintbrushes we have. It's a fun time.
And also, this is an indie game. I don't mean to say like Afterthought is like it's a bad thing. It's just like some co-op things. Some games are clearly designed for co-op. Like, there's that black and white game that came out on Switch a couple years ago. But then there's also like Split Fiction, right? Like your Split Fictions of the world, like that are clearly designed for co-op. And there's games that are like Mario Odyssey, where they're or like Mario Odyssey, or even I think Mario Galaxy also has co-op in the sense that like you can give the kid the pointer and like they can like swipe up all the stars as you go, but like really you're not really affecting the world or anything. It's not gameplay to the same degree. So there's like a spectrum of like co-op, and so I'm always curious to see like what kind of it. And I'm glad to hear that Chicory is kind of in the middle there. So
yeah, because you do affect the world. Like there are movement abilities where you like Splatoon, dive into the paint and kind of move a little bit faster, and like painting a path for yourself is a little bit more a little bit trickier than you might think. So having a co-op buddy be like, here's your path, let's go, it makes it more fun, makes it engaging, I think. And it's just a cute game. It's just great. Like all the characters are named after food. Let me just find some examples. We've got blackberry, we've got pepper, we've got beans, clementine, peppermint, lemon.
These are all 10 out of 10 names.
Yeah, let's see. Quinoa is in there. Yeah, an adult, which is definitely not 3 kids in a trench coat. Don't worry about it. It's a lot of fun. Like the world is great, the art's adorable, the gameplay is unique and it's different. And while it does get difficult, I think it is a very moving story. There are a few points where I bawled my eyes out, and it's just fun. There's a lot going on there.
Amazing. Well, thank you both so much for joining me this week. I know we went a little over our planned time, but I really appreciate you both sticking around and listening to especially my ramblings, as I kind of railroaded us a little bit there, but keeping us on track and on schedule and just getting all the points across to the listeners. So I want to thank you both so much for that, and also for joining me this week. If people want to follow you on social media, where can they find you? Amy Lynn, go.
I've said before, but if you look up Amethyst Lilac on Blue Sky, one extra Y than you'd probably think, that's probably the best way to find me, aside from, of course, just checking who the podcast follows.
Claustrophobia on Instagram. Again, that's claustrophobia, but CLEO at the start on Instagram. That's probably the best place to find me.
Amazing. Well, thank you both so much. This has been fun.
Thank you for having me again.
Thanks as always.
Yeah, it's good to have you back, Amy Lynn. It's been a whole summer. Miss talking to you.
There's still 2 weeks of summer. Don't end it short so soon.
It's weather-wise, it's over for me. It's over. It's done. We're in fall mode now. I have sweaters and tea. I'm happy.
It's sweater time. It is full-on comfy mode.
Thanks to your avatars for joining me for another episode of your Queer Video Game Podcast. If you've made it this far into the episode, I really appreciate you taking the time to support queer-made content. If you want to support the show, it would be really great if you could leave a rating, review, or comment on your preferred podcast platform. I welcome you to check out the website trueavatarspodcast.com, all one word. That's trueavatarspodcast.com. You can also find the show on Blue Sky, Threads, and YouTube under the handle @trueavatars, all one word, and on Instagram under trueavatars. Importantly, if you or anyone you know is queer and involved with video games in some way, please don't be shy. I would love to hear from more queer voices in video games. Your voice is unique and valid and worth sharing with the world. And if you don't want to be on the show or know anyone who's interested, but you know about a cool queer video game or a games industry story that's queer related, please let me know. The show's official email is trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. That's trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. You can also feel free to reach out via the website or the aforementioned social media pages. Things are tough out there, and queer people need to stick together when we can. Bye, True Avatars. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking with you all again next week. Take care and stay safe.